After almost nearly a decade of trying to get this movie going, The Flash is finally in theaters. Let's talk about it. So, at the beginning of this review, I'm going to be speaking about it from the first time I saw it at CinemaCon a few weeks back, or I guess a few months ago at this point. This review is going to be full of spoilers, so if you have not watched the movie, continue listening at your own risk. Let's get started. This movie has been marketed as the best comic book movie of all time by Warner Brothers, and in my opinion, there is somewhat of an argument for that. However, I do not think it is the greatest comic book movie of all time. It is high up there, though, and in regards to the Snyderverse movies of the old DCEU, so those that consist of Justice League, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Aquaman, etc., this film is probably in my top 3. This movie shows what the DCEU could have been. Regardless of how you feel about Ezra Miller and their whole situation, they do a great job acting in this role as Barry, as both a serious veteran hero that's been through some stuff and also an immature teenage version of himself. This movie's story is full of heart from the perspective of our Barry just trying to be with his mom again, and you can also feel the heart of the director's vision in this movie and how it is a love letter not just to the Snyderverse, but to all of DC. This movie starts off with a bang and gets right into the action. The action of this scene makes you realize how fantastical this world is, and that's shown with a scene specifically with Ben Affleck's Batman. Certain things happen to this Batman where the more grounded versions of Batman, like Robert Pattinson's or Christian Bale's, they just wouldn't be able to live through it. There is a cameo from Wonder Woman during this scene as well, and it finally very much feels like that connected universe they've been trying so hard to build. There's also an Easter egg during this scene where you see a plaque that reads Watts Industries, and in the comics, Theodore Watts is from Earth 2, which in my opinion suggests that the entire Snyderverse has taken place on Earth 2, and the new upcoming rebooted James Gunn DC Universe will take place on Earth 1. Just a fan theory. Continuing on with the action in this movie, I feel like it is great on every level. In my opinion, it follows the rule of 3. And the rule of 3 is where the action itself and the stakes of the end result elevate with each fight throughout each act of the movie. 3 acts to a movie, 3 different big action fight scenes, each one raising the bar, and I feel like they did that. The CGI, as everyone has said, could have been better given how long they've been working on this film, but once you kind of adjust to it after the first action sequence, your brain just kind of gets used to it and it doesn't really pull you out of the movie by the time the final battle comes around. There's a mystery villain in this movie, and unfortunately it is pretty predictable who this mystery villain is, but I feel like it did make sense for the movie. Barry keeps trying to save this universe from General Zod, even though no matter what happens, he is destined to fail. In doing so, continuing to try over and over again causes the multiverse to start to collapse, which is when he realizes that this world must die in order to save the multiverse. Remember, this is the world where his mom lives. This scene is emotional because the whole movie he has been trying to get to the point to where he can just be with his mom, and he realizes that she must die in order for him to become the hero he needs to be for the people. He comes to realize this is his destiny no matter what, and has to convince the younger version of Barry this world is going to be ruled by General Zod, and most likely destroyed, and there's no way out of it. After coming to terms with this, he runs back to his universe and is confronted with the decision that he has to let his mom die. And in Ezra's performance, you can really feel for Barry in this moment, knowing that this is the hardest decision he'll ever have to make. At the end of this movie, he meets with Bruce Wayne and realizes the timeline has changed yet again, seeing a different version of Bruce than he is used to, which shows that the timeline has changed permanently and leads us into James Gunn's universe. Overall, the story was fun, emotional, and action-packed, and I never thought I would love a Flash movie this much. Everything that they could do perfect with this character, I feel like they accomplished. Along with Ezra's performance as both Barrys, I really enjoyed every other hero and villain in this movie. Everybody looked like they were having so much fun. Ben Affleck was barely in it. He was as great as ever as his version of Batman. Wonder Woman was only in it for a few minutes, but again, it seemed like she was having so much fun and like she was having a little family reunion. Michael Keaton does play a seasoned retired Batman, but it never once felt like he was there for a paycheck. It's like he was truly excited to blend today's technology with his version of the character from the 80s and early 90s. Sasha Kaya, in my opinion, was great for a first-timer in this genre and put everything she had into this role, given how minor her role was. I do hope we get to see her in future installments in some way. Seeing Michael Shannon back as General Zod was awesome, and we even got to see some more Faora in this movie, which is great because fans have always been asking to see her again somehow, some way, and they did it. My most favorite part in this movie is when we see the multiverse start to collapse on itself, and we see a bunch of different versions of heroes dating back 60 plus years ago, and it was so cool to see. The main heroes we see are all the different iterations of Superman and Batman, and it filled my heart with joy to see them bring back Christopher Reeves in a way, along with showing Adam West Batman. And for those that don't know, in the 90s there was supposed to be a Superman film with Nicolas Cage that fell apart. But they put together a scene in this movie and threw in there what that movie could have been, and it was just awesome to witness. Alright guys, so I just got out of the movie again on this official release date. Now, let's talk about this cameo from George Clooney at the end. At CinemaCon, we didn't see him, but we did see the part where Barry gets the phone call shortly before he arrives, and I thought it sounded a lot like George Clooney, so it was almost insane to see him popped up and that my prediction was correct. Yes, everybody, including Clooney himself, hates that version of Batman. But what I have always said is that if you go watch Ocean's 11 and see the charisma he brought to the character of Danny, it is very much Bruce Wayne. And if he had a better script, he could have been a really good Batman. Now, does this mean he is going to be the new Batman of James Gunn's DC universe? I personally don't think so. I don't think he'll be the new lead because I do believe that they will recast the character of Flash and no longer have Ezra Miller in the role, and this universe that Barry ends up in at the end of the movie is just another other Earth and not the main Earth. On the flip side of that, though, I can see James Gunn being a person to offer second chances and try to give George Clooney a solid Batman story. Who knows what the future holds at this point? I just hope by the end of the month, James Gunn gives us a proper update on the state of Ezra Miller as Flash, and obviously now Clooney as Batman. The post-credit scene is another scene in which we did not see at the screening in CinemaCon, and it's kind of gotten a lot of hate. I personally like it and thought it was funny. Barry and Arthur come out of a bar, and Barry is talking to Arthur, aka Aquaman, about the recent adventure he was just on, and Aquaman was drunk and falls into a puddle and falls asleep there. It's a quick scene, and there's not much to it. It doesn't even sound all that exciting, but the scene itself is funny if you watch it in person, and there has been a lot of interaction with Barry and Arthur throughout different DC properties, so it was nice to see them together again. As I stated earlier, this movie was a love letter not only to the Snyderverse, but to all of DC, and I'm glad at the end of the day that it was released and given to the fans that love this universe so much. If you can separate the person from the actor, this is a movie I would 100% recommend. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what you think down below of the movie if you saw it. Thanks for watching, and see you at the movies.